So today we're going to talk about why, aligning your actions with your why specifically. And a lot of times what we find is that when we focus on action, it's all about the how. How do we solve that problem? How do we fix this? And we move down the path of action, but we don't necessarily have a whole lot of clarity. And we are oftentimes in a place of confusion when we get started, which leads to inaction. So we kind of sit around in this space before we're able to then maybe think about moving into action. But it only solves the why, and it doesn't really get to the what and the why. It only solves the how. So when we have intention, that's combining our what and our why, we find that we are aligned with what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then how we get it done almost doesn't matter. It's going to get done. And so that's really the space that we want to be focusing on. And today we're going to talk about how do we get there. I mean, it's really easy to say the words and speak it from our mind, but getting it into our hearts is another thing. So effective, targeted action is what we want to talk about. And how do we do that, especially as it pertains to our careers? So specifically, we're going to look at setting North Star objectives, and we're going to talk about developing relationship intentions. Kristen and I are always focused on how do we do a great job with our relationships and keep them fruitful. So not just spend time with people, but also get things out of it and giving and getting. And part of that, the third habit we're going to be talking about today, these are 3 of 10 habits, by the way, of highly successful executives. And I'll give you, at the end of this, I'm going to share the remaining 7 out of the 10. So stay tuned for that. But the third one is about rating your network and how do you apply the 80-20 rule into rating your network. So you really focus on intention. So let's get started on this. First off, why do we struggle to create our future success? You know, a lot of people come to me and they talk to me about the challenges that they're having and can't quite decide the path. And they're really smart people, but they just can't quite figure out what should I do next. And they struggle with that. And one of the reasons why it becomes a struggle is because we have a fear of missing out. FOMO, we call this. And our fear of missing out is, we like to follow along with other people. We like to chase after our shiny objects and chase after the things that are right in front of us because, well, it's right there and it's the easiest thing to do. So that goes back to that original graphic I was showing you about action versus intent. So we're going to talk a lot about how do we get to being intentional. Habit number 1. Developing your North Star objectives, and with it, goal tests. Obviously, one doesn't work without the other. It doesn't really do a whole lot of good if you can see that bright light up ahead out of the chaos of your world if you don't also set a path of how you're going to get there, hence goals. So aligning your actions to your why begins with some big picture planning, i.e. North Star objectives. And then we align it with our goal tests. So let's talk about some of the areas in which you might want to think about your North Star objectives. Now, hopefully all of you, and maybe even Todd, got his North Star objective list. And this is the part where you would want to fill in some of those things for yourself in terms of professional objectives. So here's an example of one. I will become one of the top merger and acquisition professionals in Denver in the next 5 years. So I don't know what type of goals you might have around your professional life. You may have several of them that are objectives which are a little bit higher level than a goal. So monetary objectives. I will have a net worth of $3 million in the next 5 years. Networking. This one we're going to focus on a lot today. I will triple the amount of referrals generated by my network within the next 3 years. You get the idea of it. There's quantifiable metrics in here. There's general timing. It's not a specific date, but we do want to set time boundaries for ourselves to give ourselves an idea of what is possible and what is reasonable for us. So these are things that we're going to have you thinking about. And then what we do with those things is come up with goal tests. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Harvard study that was done quite some years ago, in which They looked at a group of Harvard grads, recent grads. Overall, in the US, 60% of us will make New Year's resolutions, and about 8% of us are actually successful at accomplishing those New Year resolutions. Not such great odds. So Harvard did this study with a group of graduates and looked at them 10 years after graduation. And what they discovered was that 3% of them were able to get 10x the income of their peers across more at the end of that 10-year period. And when they dug into the why of this, why did 97% of them not actually get that far ahead? Primary reasons were, number one, they had goals. Number two, they wrote them down. Number three, they shared them with other people. And number four, they came back on a routine basis to review their goals and see how they were doing against it to then close gaps. So what does that mean to us? A goal test, a good way to approach a goal test, very simply, is to make sure it's in a yes and no format. Did I do it or did I not do it? So for example, this week I strengthened my professional network by sending at least one email a day to contacts I would not otherwise have emailed. And this month I attended at least one networking event. So each week and at the end of each month, I can go back and say, did I do this or did I not? Yes or no. So recall back here, my networking goal of, I will triple the amount of referrals generated by my network within the next 3 years. This is how we get to that, is by having weekly and monthly goals that get us to those objectives. So another key piece is finding someone, whether it's a mentor, coach, or even an accountability partner who is dedicated to, committed to working with you on this. So maybe they set their goals and their objectives and you share these things together. Really key part. One of the things you're going to want to think about is what are the obstacles that are going to prevent you from achieving what goals you set for yourself. As Kristen was pointing out, one of the common obstacles of actually getting to your North Star objective is that within your goals and your goal tests, you don't actually have the necessary steps to get there. So we're taking action without intention. Habit number 2, most of you are looking at some kind of relationship-driven objectives. So how can you develop your relationships with intentions and ranking? To Kristen's point. So it starts with understanding your professional purpose. What I like to call this is your superpower. What is the thing that you do better than anybody else? And the thing you do better than anybody else is also almost always something that you love to do, that you're absolutely passionate about it, which is what tends to drive you to be not only well skilled, but also good at it. And you choose naturally to go and do this thing in terms of your professional purpose. So think about what is the purpose that you have in your job? How does it affect the top or bottom line? And then what are some, what we call star stories, professional accomplishments that you can share that tell us about what your purpose is and how it affects the company. Top line, bottom line, maybe it's some other kind of a metric similar to that. Understanding your professional accomplishments will help to drive and inform your purpose. Sometimes our current or our past accomplishments are not the things that we want to accomplish as we go forward. As some of you are talking about, Pat was talking about, he wants to go from large corporate and he has great star stories about his big company pictures and what he's done in big company. But now he would like to have some new star stories about accomplishments that are focused on taking a small company from someplace to someplace else. So relationship intentions come from understanding your when and your what. When do you want people to think of you, and what do you want them to think of you? What do you want them to think of you for? So getting clear about the industry size, the type of industry or the company sizes and the types of industries, as well as where you're applying your superpower. Getting that clarity and having that come out as a part of your story is vitally important so that other people can actually help you. So, when you are trying to evaluate the conversations that you're going to be having with other people, i.e., relationship intentions, what is the purpose of you having a conversation with me or with Pat or with Alex? The purpose, you need to understand what your purpose is first, and then a way to make sure that you're fulfilling your intentions is to come up with at least three key questions that assess what Kristen was talking about, the willing and able. So people will often say, yep, I know lots of people in that industry, but are they actually willing to help you? And if they're not at the right level, or they're just maybe just an introvert and don't talk to very many people, are they actually able to help you in terms of things that you might be wanting, like introductions? Once you've figured out who you can talk to and how you're going to discern if they're willing and able, then you want to start conditioning your network about who you are and auditing your relationship objective. So when you have a relationship objective, you know what the intention is behind it, and you're really going after those people who demonstrate to you the ability to help and the willingness. So you start to focus in on the people that are going to become your fans. So let's talk about that here in just a moment. To figure this out, you first have to understand what the right opportunity is for you for career advancement. And it sounds like most of you are honing in on that. Pat has been really clear. He wants to transition out of global marketplace companies, and he wants to get connected into the PE environment so that he can be in front of other smaller companies where, again, he's going to have a nice broad reach and bring his many years of experience and diverse experience to bear on taking something from a place where it's at now and then go to somewhere else bigger. So understanding the right opportunity for you, and Neil wants to do something totally different, and then where and who do these kinds of opportunities come from? Sometimes they come from, most people assume that it's going to come from the CEO of the company that's going to hire you to go do the thing. In reality, that's not actually where the opportunity comes from. There's very few CEOs out there who are saying, hey, Neil, I need you to come help me. Or, hey, Alex, I've got this awesome company and you just got to come and help me. Doesn't work like that. So where else might you find those people, and who else might that be when it's not the CEO that's actually going to hire you? So to Kristen's point, there's a lot of professionals who are advisors to these leaders, right? All the people on the leadership team that you can also tap into. So whether they're wealth managers who focus on high net worth individuals, that could be a particular set of people. Maybe it's vendors who typically sell to that type of marketplace, because what's their job? It's to be out there selling and getting to know and build relationships with the kind of people that you're looking for. So the important thing to think about as you're coming up with what's the right opportunity for you, and where and who do those types of opportunities come from. And opportunities are not just limited to the end job. The opportunity is the thing in the middle that gets you to the end job. And so letting interesting but unaligned opportunities pass you by, let them go. This goes back to the whole fear of missing out. The more focused you are, the faster your traction will be, and the more conversations you're going to have that are going to get you into the right relationship building. It may not land you right into the exact opportunity in terms of a new job, but it definitely will increase the amount of conversations that's happening in the right venue and vein. Stacy, I think you probably have an anecdote around that to share.
Yeah, well, so I've spent some time with Patrice and some with Kristen as well, and one of the things that they really focused on with me is the idea that focus matters, and so as much as possible, rather than say you want to be in the medical industry, where what can you bring to the table, and like you said, what's your superpower? I love those things.
Yeah.
So
I
I think
think
it's true.
Yeah, Stacy's
You
got
can
a great
just,
story around that, just how quickly, once he decided, he really started out his conversation saying, well, I could do entrepreneurial things in the medical arena, or I could do company things in the medical arena. And then once he decided to focus in on corporate opportunities, his conversations tended to be more in corporate opportunities. And so
yes.
we had, a 10x increase in those types of conversations that actually got him further down the road each time towards a variety of different consulting and advisory roles and board positions and all kinds of things that he's landed and by getting that focus. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. So again, replacing the fear of missing out with hyper focus, as Stacy just said, for the right opportunity. So opportunity being, the key thing here, it doesn't always mean your job. Opportunity is the steps to get you towards that job, right? Good opportunities are also the right conversations. So keep that in mind. Your goal is really to, when you're meeting with people, is to find out about them, what value can you bring to them, and understand who they are, what is important to them in their life beyond their work, especially beyond their work, because once you can identify that, the relationship becomes something that you can have first, second, and third conversations. It's really easy to get to the first one, but hard to get to second and third. So now we come to the third habit: rate your network for top connections. So again, relating back to Kristen's story about how you can show up and go to a lot of different meetings or Zoom calls like this, or even one-on-ones, if you're not being intentional about why do I want to talk to this person, and what information do I want to make sure that I come away with, and what value do I think I can give them that I'm going to be following up on, and then what are they, how might they help me, and where are they positioned in their life and their career, what are they able to, who are they able to connect me to, who do I think they are. So top connections, any one of these three areas might be a purpose for your particular network, and why your network matters, because the network will help you land a purpose over paycheck position, right? We don't want to just accept whatever. We want to have it fulfill our purpose. And your network may also help you to create new opportunities, and it definitely will, when done right, create currency. So what do we mean by currency? Well, relationships are the currency of business. So when you are rating your network, you want to think about those people who are your champions. These are people who are actively engaged in conversation with you. They are aligned with your goals. So for example, Neil was talking about Tocqueville, and the people there, you choose to be a part of Tocqueville, as you do with any association. But if you're choosing to be a part of that, it's because you have certain values about giving back to the community, and you have a certain mindset that goes with it as well. And so everybody there tends to be pretty well aligned, at least in those areas. It definitely goes beyond them just making introductions. It's really about having a mind share with them. So by that we mean aligned views, values, perspectives, and each other's minds, hence mind sharing. And then those champions are people that you should be having touch points with roughly every month. Maybe it's every other month, but pretty frequently your champions are people that you want to be staying in conversation with. Connectors will take your calls and give you introductions, but oftentimes they lack the clout that you might need. And then they have contributors. So this is kind of the tier 3 if you think about the bullseye and a target, and this one, champions being at the bullseye and contributors being at that third ring out. They might have your card, or they might be a LinkedIn connection. They might be connected to you through an organization, and they can contribute to you in some way, but they may not be as strong as an actual connector. So thinking about these 3 levels, and where would you guess you should spend your time? Any guesses?
Champions.
Yes, sir. Champions. And how much time should we spend here versus with contributors? 80-20. You want to apply that 80-20 rule here. 80% of your time really needs to be focused on your champions and 20% of your time on your connectors and contributors. So again, back to, Kristen's great analogy about how it's so easy to go spend your time in association events and showing up and attending. But if you don't have intention about who it is that you're wanting to meet, what kind of follow-up you're going to do, what questions you're going to ask the people that you do meet with, so that you can quickly assess, is this a person who is willing and able? Is this a person for whom I can add value and they will in turn want to share value with me? All of those pieces, assessing that quickly in less than 2 minutes. One of the fun exercises that we do within our platform that has now gone completely virtual, online, and all of that good fun stuff around our core accelerator to help transitioning executives, is to do an exercise that we call the dinner party exercise, in which in 2 minutes time you can assess who the other person is, really interesting facts about them, and what you're going to do in regards to helping them and what they might do to help you in under 2 minutes, both ways. And people don't believe that you can do that until you get forced to do it. And when you do it like with 5 different people in a row in a 10-minute session, you suddenly, and after 10 minutes, people can always remember at least one thing about the other person, and they generally can figure out why should I and you have a conversation a next conversation. They can form the bond, and they can figure out, yep, I would love to meet with you next week. Would you like to meet on Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon? To be able to do that quickly and effectively means you have to know your own purposes and what you love and what you're looking for in others, so that you can move towards those things quickly. So building your list, and I think, Pat, I think that was you who mentioned one of the things you're going to be doing is putting together a list of targeted companies by geolocation. Was that Pat or was that Alex? I think maybe it was Alex.
I think
That was me.
All right. So building your list, you're spot on with that. You definitely want to create a target list of the kinds of companies that you want to go after, and then the people in the companies. And then you want to rate your list of actual people that you're talking to in terms of, who do I know that's already associated to the kinds of companies that I want to go after? By definition, this means that you are not looking for next opportunities where there is a job opening. There is no job opening, and that's okay. The jobs will come. The jobs get created afterwards. And ultimately applying your 80-20 rule to your list of people. So building your list of companies, the people that you already know, rating the list of people that you know in terms of who you're going to have frequent conversations with and less frequent conversations with. Ultimately, all of this is about, if you don't know what you want, your contacts cannot help you get it, right? If you don't know what you want, they can't help you. So getting clear about all that stuff is really important. So we're going to do a quick little breakout session here. And what I want you guys to do is introduce yourselves to the other person in your breakout room, and you're going to come away with their current or past company name, their name, what they do better than anyone, so what's their superpower, and what are they looking for. This is not necessarily a job. In fact, I'm going to say it cannot be about a job. The thing that they're looking for, we're going to exclude the answer of a job of any sort. So what else are they looking for in life beyond a job? What do they do better than anyone, and what are they looking for?